Hello people, welcome back to Kayla Creates. I'm Kayla and today I'm going to be talking about Photoshop versus FireAlpaca. Sorry about any background noise you can hear, any cars or whatever else is going on out there. I've already turned off my fan, and if I shut my window, my room is so hot and there's a nice breeze coming through today and I would like to keep it that way. So the window is staying open. So I first started using FireAlpaca when I first got my Wacom tablet, and actually this is a story that I just barely remembered, like I completely forgot that any of this existed. The tablet came with Corel Painter Essentials 5, I believe it was. Like that was just included in the purchase, and that was the Wacom program that came with the tablet pretty much. And that one was not for beginners, at least not for me. Maybe I'm just stupid. I had so many issues with like lots of different things, like the workspace, the tools, not being able to like find what I needed to. And I don't know if it was necessarily designed for more experienced people. I don't know. I feel like it just should have been simpler to use because it came with the tablet. So if you're first buying a tablet, especially if it was a Wacom Intuos, shouldn't there have been a simpler program? Anyway, that's a tangent for a whole nother day. That started to crash on me. I remember I was working really hard on this OC that I completely forgot existed, and she had rainbow hair. Yes, I was in middle school at the time. I was working so hard on that. I was so proud of it, and I was so excited to finish it, and I came back. I saw that it had, like, all saved on one layer. Like, when I saved it and closed the program, I was still in the sketch stage at that point, and so I was like, it's whatever. Like, you know, it's not gonna be a huge deal if it all saves on one layer. It'll just be a one-time thing. It'll probably fix itself. Went, fiddled around with the settings, didn't fix. Obviously this is a problem when you're getting into line art and coloring, so I was like, this is not gonna work, and so I switched to FireAlpaca. That was really good. That was much easier for me to, you know, figure out, and it was free. After FireAlpaca, when I got a beefier laptop, I switched to Photoshop. I was still trying to, you know, figure out how to use that because obviously it's a very complicated program. I remember the first drawing I did on Photoshop was Vidya from Tinkerbell, and it was really bad because I didn't know what I was doing, and you know, you could tell. And I had a video on that and I took it down, so don't go looking for it. It's on private for a reason, trust me. I got a lot more comfortable with the program, started learning more techniques and more like ins and outs of it, and then I was like, I should probably start saving money. I'm just an artist, I don't really use it for photos, so I was like, I might want to save money because Adobe is freaking expensive, and switch to a different program. And so I went back to FireAlpaca. It's just good for like anybody, especially if you're not doing anything like crazy complicated with your art. It's just, and it's free. It's just a good program and it's free, which is great. We love free things. So I just thought that I would spend this video and go over some of the major differences, some of my likes and dislikes about each program. Alright, so one of the first things I liked about FireAlpaca is that it had a navigator in the top right corner, and the navigator shows your whole image, then shows a little box on the part of your image that you are zoomed into. So that's super helpful to kind of just see where you are in the whole image. And it has rotate buttons and zoom buttons and a zoom to fill and then a reset rotate, and so it was just like all right there. Instead of having to do all these keyboard shortcuts, you can just go and tap it on the navigator button, and that was really cool and I liked that very much. One thing I did prefer about Photoshop was the R shortcut for rotate, which I could just drag my pen to the angle that I wanted it to. So it is a little harder with FireAlpaca because there's like, you know, two buttons for 90 degrees one way and 90 degrees the other way, and then if you want to get a different angle, you have to drag the little bar, but it's just, I don't know, maybe my navigator is just too small, but it's just kind of hard to get it the precise angle that you want. So that is one thing that I do prefer about Photoshop, is the like drag on your canvas. Another thing that I really liked about FireAlpaca is it just draws so smoothly, and maybe it was just my laptop and the way Photoshop interacted with it, if that makes sense, because I just felt like it was a little slow. It dragged on a little bit. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know. I just like the way that FireAlpaca, I like the way that my lines on the screen and my pen interact with each other. That makes no sense, but I don't know how else to describe it. It just draws very smoothly, okay? I have a lot more control over my lines. One thing I also liked is the pen pressure on FireAlpaca. That is one thing that when I switched to Photoshop I could not figure out how to do. I checked every single setting I knew how to, and I just could not figure out how to improve my pen pressure. No matter what I did, whether it was on the Wacom settings or the Adobe settings, it just was never at the pressure that it actually looked like I was putting pen pressure into it, and so it was just really hard and definitely didn't allow for as much of a dynamic as I wanted. So that is something that I do really like about FireAlpaca, is it's very sensitive to pen pressure, and it's also very easy to change the sensitivity. The shapes are also 1,000 times easier to use. On Photoshop, you have to put in pixel width and then like the precise color, and then you have to rasterize it if you want to like move it or like transform it, or it was just like a whole process every time I had to draw a circle. FireAlpaca, so much easier to use, and I don't have to go through 1,000 steps just to put a tiny little circle and use it for glasses. The perspective is also a lot easier to use. There are I don't know how to describe it, like snap grids, I guess, but you can like drag them around, use them where you want, and that does include shapes and circles and also like perspective and vanishing point and all that. One like minor thing that I just like is the folder icons and how they open and close is really cute. Like in Photoshop you just have like the icon, but in FireAlpaca the folder icon will actually like open and close, and I don't know, I just like it. I appreciate the things like that. Another thing that I really like and I think is super funny is the FireAlpaca custom brushes. I never use them ever. It's just cute, it's funny, and they have a variety, and it's just, I don't know, it's just a fun little thing that it's like, hey, download FireAlpaca, you'll get FireAlpaca brushes, you know? Speaking of brushes though, that is one thing that I do miss about Photoshop is the Kyle's special effects brushes. I use those quite a bit in all of my drawings, in like the watercolor style ones, and I'm trying to figure out how to mimic my style with like the watercolor stuff. The watercolor brushes on FireAlpaca, they don't have the same effect, and so I'm just trying to figure out if there's a substitute, or if I can like modify some of the brushes, or if I'm just gonna have to download a new pack. That is one thing that I did really like about Photoshop's brushes, was the Kyle's special effects brushes. Those were super helpful. I loved those. FireAlpaca does have leaves instead of just like a filling. It also has a polka dot brush, there's leaves. So I think it's kind of a fair trade. I do miss the special effects brushes, but it is nice to have those random crazy ones. It's cute. Overall, I think that if you can actually afford Photoshop and you know how to use it, still consider whether or not you actually want to use it, because it is very graphic design based. But if you're looking for a program, you're probably a beginner, and in that case I 100% recommend FireAlpaca. So simple, so easy to use. You don't have all of the really extra complicated stuff that you would only use if you are working with Photoshop, because Photoshop is very graphic design based. Yes, people still use it for art, but there's also Procreate and Adobe Illustrate. But because it is so graphic design based, there are a lot of extra things that if you are just looking for art and illustration, you probably won't need, and you just don't need that big of a program to just like slow down your computer. Like I noticed that my computer was crashing so much more toward the end when I was about to switch to FireAlpaca, and I was like, I'm so glad that I already have a plan to like re-download this, and that like I just barely finished up, because it just got to be kind of a pain, honestly. So if you are not going to use that extra stuff, definitely don't. And it's so expensive too, like oh my gosh, I swear they up their prices $10 every single week. It's crazy. But yeah, not only is FireAlpaca cheaper, simpler, and a lot easier on your computer, it's also free. We love free things. Can I get a hi-ya for free things? Like, love it. It is so good for being free as well. And it has those custom FireAlpaca brushes. So, which, I mean, again, I never use, but I'm going to use in this thumbnail because I love them. They deserve to be recognized. Oh my gosh, what is... Boo! I hope you got pulled over. Anyway though, besides the car noises, I hope y'all enjoyed this video, and I will also link my anonymous stories and advice form in the description, so if you want to do that. I'm trying to figure out a time where I can sit down and record. Keep submitting that, and I will get to it eventually. I'm trying, I promise. But yeah, that's it. Get FireAlpaca. I strongly encourage it. Stay safe and stay healthy, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!